Startup guru Steve Blank said it best: no business plan survives first contact with a customer. The previous steps of this guide were about creating a business plan for your marketplace. Now it's time to see if it actually works. To do that, you need to validate your assumptions, or in other words, pre-validate your marketplace idea. The general wisdom is that you should launch your marketplace as soon as possible. It's quite likely that the final validation of your platform will happen only after people are actually using it. However, there are things that you can and should do before writing the first line of code, hiring someone to build your platform, or using no-code software to launch it. In this video, we'll go through those things. Take it from Charles Armitage of Florence, a UK-based nursing marketplace. They spent months and quite a bit of money building the first version of their platform. That MVP wasn't even working yet when they started talking to users.
I went and sat in a care home for a few months and drove some nurses to shifts and things like that. And, you speak to people and you kind of come to the realization yourself that actually what I need to do here really to solve 80% of the problem is a very, very simple product.
So they rolled back their MVP and started the business with a Google Sheet. And that was more than enough to get started. When you pre-validate your marketplace idea, you'll have a clearer path to building your platform and succeeding with it. And you won't have spent months building something that no one actually needs. So how do you pre-validate a marketplace idea? This is the part where you get out of the house and start talking to people. Since you constrained your marketplace to an initial category or location, you know your target users. Now, you just need to find them. If you belong to the community you're looking to serve, you probably already know where they are. If not, there are plenty of places to start looking. Are you building a B2B or a B2C marketplace? When focusing on businesses, you might cold call or email them. If the businesses are brick-and-mortar stores, reach out to the owners and go visit them in person. Or are there related conferences or events happening close by? If you're focusing on individual suppliers or customers instead, figure out where they hang out, online or offline. Niche forums, Facebook groups, and other social media, local meetups and conventions are your best bets when it comes to finding potential users for a peer-to-peer marketplace or customers for a B2C platform. Another great way to attract people in your target group is to set up a landing page with your value proposition. Drive some traffic there with Google Ads and see if people are intrigued enough to leave their email or phone number. And if they are, contact them to learn more about their needs. And speaking of Google, studying search data can also give you an idea of how big your potential audience is. You could create an account on a search engine optimization tool like SEMrush or Ahrefs. Many of these tools have a free version or a trial period. Study how often relevant searches to your marketplace are made. Now you've found your people, or companies. Next, you want to make sure they actually have the problem you want to solve. And if they do, learn how they're solving it now. Formulate a set of open-ended questions about the problem you're solving. Questions for potential customers could be: how do you currently find the product or service? How often do you search for it? How do you compare different suppliers? And some questions for potential suppliers. Could you take in more customers than you currently have? How do your customers find you? How do you invoice your customers? You can find more example questions like these in Marketplace Academy. There's a link to an even more detailed guide to pre-validating a marketplace idea in the further reading section of this video. It's important not to lead your interviewees too much. You might end up getting the answers you want, but not the answers you need. Listen carefully to what people tell you and react to their answers with more questions. It's entirely possible that at least some of your assumptions were wrong. Finding these should be your focus. You're not selling anything yet, so don't talk about the benefits of your solution in the beginning. Instead, concentrate on the problem. If your assumptions seem to hold true, move on to talking about your proposed solution and gauge your interviewee's reaction to it. Maybe use a prototype to help them get an idea of what you're offering. This can be anything from a doodle on a paper to a PowerPoint presentation, or even a simple demo website built with a no-code tool. And remember to validate your revenue model at this point as well. When you're talking to the people you plan on charging, ask if they would be willing to pay your planned pricing. And if not, how much would they pay? If you notice your assumptions were wrong, it's better to skip describing your solution entirely. This is actually fantastic news. You achieved what you set out to do and didn't waste time or money building a solution nobody actually wanted. Focus on finding out whether there is another problem you could solve for your target users instead. Or if you still see potential in your idea, you can take all that knowledge you gathered from your interviews, change your approach, and validate again. Basically, this means changing either your initial niche, main value proposition, or revenue model. When talking to your target users, did you notice patterns such as younger people liking your idea more? Maybe you can focus on that specific segment instead. If your initial value proposition was not strong enough, could it still work with some tweaking? Or did you discover new, more important problems along the way? Or it might be about the money. Changing your pricing or even your entire revenue model might be a good idea if people aren't open to paying what you plan on asking. And then, validate again. That's pre-validation in a nutshell. You're validating your problem, solution, and revenue model with potential users. And that means both supply and demand. Let's recap the steps. 1. Get out of the house and find your people. Talk to your target user group in person and online. Maybe validate interest with a landing page and Google Ads. 2. Make sure people have the problem you're solving and learn how they're solving it now. Then pitch a prototype of your idea and listen to their feedback. 3. If the validation shows your assumptions were incorrect, that's great. You now know your idea won't work, or you still need to work on it. Change your approach and validate again. Once you can be relatively confident that there is a demand and supply for your marketplace, you're ready to move on to the next stage, which is building your minimum viable product, MVP, or, in the context of this guide, minimum viable platform. We'll talk about that in the next video.